So several months ago, I decided to read through all of Mark Twain's books, and I wanted to make sure I got the ones with illustrations, because I know a lot of his books have illustrations, and he's one of those authors like Charles Dickens or the Alice in Wonderland books, Sherlock Holmes, the original Arthur Conan Doyle stories. They all have really great illustrations, and I wanted to get that, because I kind of think that Twain was aware he was working with an illustrator, and he saw the illustrations as they were coming along, so I think it was a very symbiotic relationship in the text, and you can't just omit the illustrations like many of his books do. So I wanted the right editions. So I came across this set called the Oxford Mark Twain, which reprints all of his titles as they were first appeared in their American editions, with the illustrations, and there's also these essays by modern authors and scholars, blah, blah, blah. So I kept an eye out for that, and I found a set for a really good price, like about under $90 for 27, 29, however many volumes, 29 I think. And they're in great shape, and I've started it. So I'm gonna be going through these slowly but surely. And the first book is what is it called? The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County and Other Stories or Sketches, something like that. I'll show it here. This is a really scattered collection of different pieces he'd done. He'd been working as a journalist at this point, living in California and Nevada. He also did this trip to the Sandwich Islands, which we call Hawaii now. And he does, some of that correspondence is included in this book, but it's a very uneven, unusual book. Like, some of the pieces are very straightforward, some of them are very abstract, and there's even a commentary that one of them is pretty avant-garde for Mark Twain in the 1860s when this came out. So it's a good book, it's enjoyable, but I don't think it has the scope or the framework that a book like he needs, because each of these pieces feels very throwaway and disposable, and I wanted like a little more cohesiveness to this. And his next book, The Innocents Abroad, will do just that. It's 600 pages of him traveling abroad, so it has that kind of beginning, middle, and end narrative arc of sorts. So I'm going to get to that soon. But Twain hated this book. He actually bought the, what are they called when they printed back then? The plates. He bought the plates and he destroyed them because he hated this book so much. I don't know why he hated it specifically. Maybe it just felt a little too amateurish. And sometimes it does get kind of pointless. Sometimes the jokes are a little, that wasn't that funny. But it's worth reading. I think you can see a lot of his development, and I've read enough other Twain books, the Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn, etc., that I can kind of see his direction, but you can see hints of that here. There's a sketch about a young boy. It's told not very well, but he does hint that this is a boy who broke the rules. It wasn't a good boy. There's no moral. He did bad things. So I'm like, this sounds very almost Huck Finn-ish. I mean, you could say that Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn were, based on his own childhood, so that's where that comes from. But this is his first attempt to kind of encode that into a story. So it's interesting to see. The title story about the frog, it's enjoyable enough. It actually made him, from what I understand, it was like pretty well received by the public, and it was reprinted all over, and it made his name as Mark Twain. I learned something. I thought that Mark Twain was like kind of his secret, that was his pen name, and Samuel Clemens, I thought that was like a secret name that most people didn't know, but looking at his books, the original editions, it actually says in a lot of them, the copyright will just say like right away, copyright Sam Clemens. So it's like, okay, it's pretty obvious that this is Mark Twain. It's not a secret at all. I would only recommend this book if you really are, like me, somebody that wants to read all of Mark Twain. This is a very slight, disposable book. I can think of at least 10 better ones, I'm sure. But what I admire about this is that even though the width of the book, the scope of it is not very big, each piece is very slight, there is in his writing a very, it feels a little jazzier, a little more energetic than a lot of the writers that I've read from that time. I think that's what makes him stand out. He has this, even when he's not saying something funny, he's a good writer. He knows how to put sentences together, unlike me, in ways that are really unusual and he'll vary the sentence length, and it just has a bumpiness that I like. So if you want to see that development, go start with this book. Check out the Oxford Mark Twain set, and I will get to the next one, Innocents Abroad, before long.